You ever notice how people don't realize they're walking into a trap until it's already closed? They think they're in control. They think they're choosing. But no one ever sees the cage while it's being built. Not until the door locks behind them. It starts small, little compromises, tiny lies, moments where you say, "It's fine," when your gut screams, "It's not." You tell yourself you're just adapting, but really you're surrendering, piece by piece, smile by smile, until one day you wake up and there's nothing left that's truly yours. Comfort, that's the sweetest lie ever told. It whispers to you like a lullaby, convincing you that peace means stillness, that quiet means safety. You stop chasing, stop questioning, stop growing, and you call it stability. But that's the trick, isn't it? Comfort doesn't come to soothe you, it comes to sedate you. It doesn't wrap you in warmth because you've earned rest. It does it so you'll forget the fire burning underneath your own potential. People don't notice how deadly comfort can be because it never announces itself as danger. It walks in smiling, promising calm, promising security. But behind that smile, it's already building the walls of your cage. You start with little things. You stop fighting the small battles because it's not worth it. You stop dreaming too big because real life doesn't work like that. You stop speaking up because no one listens anyway. You tell yourself you're just being practical, mature, realistic. But every time you trade discomfort for convenience, you hand over another piece of your freedom. Comfort doesn't steal it all at once. It takes it slowly, gently, until you forget you ever had it. You stop noticing the weight on your shoulders because you've gotten used to carrying it. You stop recognizing the walls because you've decorated them. You even start calling your cage home. People love to call it peace. But it's not peace if it costs you your voice. It's not rest if it makes you forget how to move. Comfort numbs you, softens you, makes you afraid of the very things that could set you free. You start avoiding challenges, avoiding change, avoiding the mirror, because you know what you'll see if you look too long. You'll see someone who settled, someone who stopped, someone who once had the fire, but traded it for a blanket. And you'll tell yourself it's fine, that this is how life is supposed to be. Safe, predictable, boring. But deep down, something inside you screams. Not loudly. Comfort doesn't allow loudness, but faintly, like a heartbeat in the dark. It whispers that you were made for more, that this calm isn't real, that you're slipping away. You ignore it, of course. You drown it out with distractions, with routines, with noise. Because if you stopped and listened, even for a second, you'd realize the truth. You're not at peace. You're paralyzed. You're not resting. You're rusting. The worst part, the world rewards you for it. They'll call you responsible, stable, normal. They'll tell you you're doing the right thing by staying quiet, by staying put, by staying small. Society loves comfortable people. They don't cause problems. They don't question the system. They don't change anything. They just blend in, smile politely, and disappear into the rhythm of everyone else's expectations. And the longer you stay there, the more it starts to feel like choice instead of captivity. You'll tell yourself this is where you belong. You'll convince yourself that dreaming is childish, that risk is foolish, that fighting back is madness. Comfort doesn't kill dreams violently. It starves them, slowly, silently. It convinces you to wait until the time is right, but that time never comes. It tells you to be grateful for what you have, but gratitude becomes an excuse for fear. You start mistaking contentment for surrender, and once you cross that line, it's over. You lose your hunger. You lose your curiosity. You lose the spark that made you different in the first place. And then, when life finally tries to shake you awake, you'll resist it. You'll fight to stay asleep because you've grown addicted to the illusion of safety. That's what comfort does best. It turns you into your own warden. You no longer need someone to trap you because you've learned how to lock the door yourself. You stop reaching for more because reaching feels risky. You stop questioning because questions bring discomfort. You stop caring because caring requires courage, and you convince yourself that stillness is peace when really it's surrender. You've built a quiet little prison and called it happiness. But somewhere deep down, you know it's not real. You feel it when you wake up and your chest feels heavy for no reason. You feel it when you catch yourself staring at nothing, wondering when your life stopped being yours. You feel it when you smile out of habit instead of joy. That's not peace. That's the echo of what's been buried alive inside you. Comfort buried your ambition, your purpose, your fire, and left behind a hollow version of who you were meant to be. And the scariest part, you'll defend that comfort like it's sacred. You'll fight for it, protect it, justify it, because it's all you know now. It's familiar, and familiarity feels safer than freedom. People don't fear death as much as they fear change. And comfort knows that. That's how it wins. It doesn't need chains or bars. It just needs your willingness to stay the same. It keeps you trapped not by force, but by your own desire to never feel discomfort again. You'll say you're happy. You'll say you're fine. And maybe you'll even believe it. But deep inside, something will always whisper the truth. You're not living, you're hiding. Fear never comes dressed as fear. It doesn't walk in screaming or waving a red flag. No, it's smarter than that. It wears a disguise. Something that feels rational, safe, even wise. It whispers in your ear with a voice that sounds like your own, saying things like, "Be careful, not now, maybe later." And you listen, because fear doesn't tell you not to move. It convinces you that standing still is the smart choice. It calls itself logic. It calls itself caution. But make no mistake, it's fear. Always has been, always will be. It starts small. You tell yourself you'll take the risk when you're more ready, when things are more stable, when the timing's right. But that day never comes. Because fear always finds a reason, doesn't it? It tells you to wait until the perfect moment, knowing damn well perfection doesn't exist. It wants you to hesitate. It feeds on hesitation. Every second you delay, it grows stronger, digging deeper into your mind until it becomes the voice of reason itself. You start mistaking fear for wisdom, paralysis for patience, and suddenly, your dreams start rotting in the name of being realistic. Fear doesn't need to scream to control you. It only needs to whisper, just enough to make you doubt yourself. That's the trick. It doesn't take your power by force. It convinces you to give it away. You start questioning your instincts, second, guessing your ideas, editing your own courage before the world ever sees it. You become your own jailer, building walls around your potential with words like, what if, and maybe not. And before you know it, you're not protecting yourself anymore. You're protecting your fear. You tell yourself it's just self-preservation, that you're being responsible. But responsibility without courage is just fear in a suit. You plan, you prepare, you overthink. You analyze every angle until all that's left is the illusion of control. Fear loves control. It wants you to believe that if you calculate every outcome, you can avoid pain, failure, embarrassment. But in reality, all you're doing is avoiding life, because every great thing you could ever want lives on the other side of uncertainty. And fear will do everything it can to keep you from crossing that line. You ever notice how fear always talks about loss? It never tells you what you might gain. It keeps your mind trapped in what could go wrong, never what could go right. It plays the same movie over and over again. Failure, rejection, humiliation. It convinces you that safety is survival. But survival without purpose is just a slower kind of death. You breathe, you exist, but you don't live. Fear doesn't just stop you from falling. It stops you from flying. And the cruel part, fear's logic always sounds right. It always makes sense in the moment. Because it's not some shadow lurking in the dark. It's disguised as your best friend. It tells you it's protecting you, but really it's protecting itself. It doesn't want to die, and for it to live, you have to stay small. You have to keep pretending that comfort equals safety, that uncertainty equals danger. But that's the illusion. It keeps you busy running from things that were never meant to hurt you in the first place. Fear doesn't want you to see how much you've already survived. It doesn't want you to remember the moments you were terrified and did it anyway. It hides those memories. Because if you remembered your strength, you wouldn't listen to it anymore. You'd recognize the truth, that fear doesn't predict the future. It only reflects your wounds. It's not warning you about what's coming. It's reminding you of what already broke you once. But you're not that same person anymore, are you? You've healed, hardened, grown. Fear just hasn't caught up yet. So it keeps talking. Keeps spinning stories about what could happen if you step too far. Speak too loud, dream too big. It paints failure in vivid colors, but it forgets one thing. You've already failed before, and you survived it. You've already been hurt, and you kept going. You've already lost things you thought you couldn't live without, and yet, here you are. That's what fear can't understand. You're still standing. You always were. You just forgot what that meant. The more you listen to fear, the more logical it sounds. The less you move, the safer you feel. But safety and stillness aren't the same. One protects you, the other traps you. Fear doesn't stop bad things from happening. It just stops good things from ever beginning. It tricks you into living half a life, calling it peace. But peace doesn't come from avoiding pain. It comes from facing it. That's what fear never wants you to realize. Once you face it, it loses its power. So it hides behind reason, behind excuses, behind the illusion of waiting for the right time. It tells you you're not ready because it knows you'll never feel ready. It tells you to stay where it's safe because it knows nothing grows there. It tells you that logic will protect you. But logic without courage is just another kind of fear. And fear will always sound smart right up until the moment you realize it's been keeping you small all along. Silence, it starts as peace and ends as poison. At first, it feels good, almost holy. You tell yourself you're being mature, that you're just keeping things calm, that speaking up won't change anything anyway. So, you swallow your truth. You hold your breath. You hide your fire. And the world claps for you, because silence makes people comfortable. They don't want your truth. They want your compliance. So, you give it to them. You tell yourself you're protecting the peace, but really, you're burying yourself alive. You ever notice how silence feels different when you're lying to yourself? It's heavy, isn't it? It presses down on your chest until breathing feels like work. You smile when you want to scream. You nod when you want to walk away. You laugh at things that break you inside. And every time you stay quiet, something inside you dies just a little bit more. Not all at once. No, silence doesn't kill fast. It takes its time. It drains the color out of your voice, one unspoken word at a time. The funny part is, silence disguises itself as strength. People call it restraint, composure, control. They don't see the war behind your calm face. They don't see the storm you're swallowing. They think you're fine because you don't complain. But the ones who never make noise are often the ones screaming the loudest on the inside. Silence becomes a cage you decorate with fake smiles and polite nods. It looks peaceful, but it's not peace. It's pressure. It's pretending. The world teaches you early that silence keeps you safe. Don't speak up. People won't like you. Don't question. People won't trust you. Don't feel too much. Don't want too much. Don't be too much. So, you learn to shrink. You learn to silence yourself before anyone else has to. You turn your pain into jokes. You turn your opinions into secrets. You build walls made of words you never said. And before you know it, your silence becomes your identity. But here's the truth no one tells you. Silence always demands a sacrifice. It eats away at your confidence, your courage, your clarity. It convinces you that keeping quiet is easier, that speaking up will only make things worse. And sometimes, maybe it does. But every time you choose silence over truth, you reinforce the lie that your voice doesn't matter, that you don't matter. And once you start believing that, it's over. You don't need a cage anymore. You'll build one yourself. Silence isn't always peace. It's often fear dressed in calm. You keep quiet not because you've made peace with the world, but because you're afraid of losing it. You're afraid of the consequences that come with honesty. You're afraid that if people knew what you really think, what you really feel, they'd leave. So you stay silent. You call it self-control, but really, it's self-erasure. You stop saying what you mean, and after a while, you forget what you mean at all. Silence turns you into a stranger to yourself. You start censoring your thoughts before they even reach your lips. You start doubting your right to speak. You start telling yourself that your pain isn't valid, that your anger isn't justified, that your story doesn't deserve to be told. You start mistaking invisibility for safety, and that's how silence wins. It doesn't fight you. It convinces you to disappear quietly. But silence doesn't just protect you. It protects the very things that hurt you. It shields the abuser. It hides the injustice. It lets the lies grow roots. Every time you stay quiet, you feed the thing that's killing you. Because silence isn't neutral. It's agreement. It's permission. It's surrender. And the more you give it, the more it takes until you wake up one day realizing you've been living someone else's life in your own skin. And you'll tell yourself it's fine. You'll convince yourself that silence is noble, that peace is better than confrontation. You'll bury your truth so deep that even you can't find it anymore. You'll become addicted to the calm, even if it's fake, even if it costs you everything real, because silence feels safe, and safety is seductive. But there's a price for peace that isn't built on truth. It's called suffocation. You'll feel it in the moments when you're alone. That pressure in your chest that doesn't go away. That ache in your throat like something's trying to escape but can't. That's your truth, clawing at the walls of your silence. It's the part of you that refuses to die quietly. The part that remembers what your voice sounds like. But the longer you stay silent, the quieter it becomes, until eventually you stop hearing it altogether. And that's when the real trap sets in. Because once silence becomes normal, breaking it feels wrong. You start mistaking your own truth for noise. You start thinking maybe you're overreacting. Maybe you're too sensitive. Maybe it's better this way. That's how people lose themselves. Not through chaos, but through quiet. The kind of quiet that pretends to protect you while it slowly drains your soul. The silence you thought would save you becomes the prison you can't escape. You wear it like armor, but it's really a coffin. Because silence doesn't keep you safe. It keeps you small. And it doesn't matter how beautiful your prison is. It's still a prison. The walls are made of every truth you were too afraid to speak. Every boundary you were too scared to set. Every scream you swallowed for the sake of being understood. And the longer you live there, the more you forget what freedom even sounds like. People always think traps look obvious. Chains, cages, bars. Something that screams danger. But the real traps, The ones that ruin lives, they look like comfort. They sound like logic. They whisper sweet little things in your ear until you stop questioning and start accepting. That's how they catch you. Not with force, but with familiarity. They don't tie you down, they convince you not to move. And that's the trick. That's how you become stuck, by thinking you're safe. You ever notice how the most dangerous places are the ones that feel peaceful? The job that drains your soul but pays the bills. The relationship that hurts you but isn't that bad. The environment that clips your wings but tells you it's for your own good. That's how they do it. They trap you in comfort. You stop dreaming because dreaming feels like risk. You stop fighting because fighting feels exhausting. So, you stay. You call it stability. You call it maturity. But deep down, you know what it is. It's fear. Fear that if you leave, you'll lose everything you've built. Fear that maybe you won't find something better. Fear that maybe this is as good as it gets. So, you stay in the cage and tell yourself it's home. You decorate it. You justify it. You convince yourself it's where you belong. And when anyone tries to wake you up, you get angry at them because they're threatening the illusion you worked so hard to believe. That's how traps work. They don't need to lock you in. They just need to make you stop wanting out. They whisper that it's too late to change, that you've come too far to start over, that you should just accept things the way they are. And you believe it because comfort dulls your instincts. It makes you forget what freedom feels like. It replaces your hunger with habit, and slowly, the fire inside you starts to fade. The real danger isn't that you're stuck. It's that you think you're choosing to stay. You tell yourself you're being smart, that you're being patient. That timing is everything. But time doesn't save people who've stopped moving. It buries them. The longer you wait, the deeper the roots of your fear grow. And soon, you're not just trapped. You're loyal to your trap. You defend it. You protect it. You become its guardian, not its prisoner. And maybe that's the most tragic part. How people fall in love with their own cages. They get so used to being limited that freedom starts to look like chaos. They start calling their pain normal. They laugh at their own suffering like it's just part of life. They think enduring misery is strength. But it's not strength. It's surrender. A silent, smiling surrender to everything that's killing them from the inside out. The world is full of invisible traps like that. They come disguised as good intentions. The friend who keeps you small because they're scared you'll outgrow them. The parent who tells you to be realistic when you talk about your dreams. The system that rewards obedience and punishes originality. You think you're choosing your path, but the truth is, they've already built it for you. You're just walking it, believing it's your own. You know what's funny? Most people don't even realize they're trapped until it's too late. They wake up one day and wonder why their reflection looks so tired, why their laughter sounds so empty, why they feel so hollow, even when everything looks fine. It's because the soul knows when it's been silenced. It knows when it's being suffocated by routine. It knows when it's been bribed into submission by comfort. The worst trap isn't the one that locks your body. It's the one that chains your mind. The one that convinces you to doubt your own instincts. The one that makes you second guess the voice that says, something isn't right. You know that feeling, that small, unsettling whisper inside you that keeps trying to warn you. You silence it. You call it anxiety. You call it overthinking. But it's not paranoia. It's awareness. It's the part of you that still remembers what freedom feels like. But the world doesn't like people who listen to that voice. It calls them crazy, rebellious, ungrateful. Because free people can't be controlled. They can't be manipulated. They don't follow rules that don't make sense. So, the world distracts you instead. It keeps you busy. It feeds you noise. Social media, fake news, gossip, comparison. It gives you 1,000 little things to care about. So you never stop to think about the one thing that actually matters. Are you free? That's the cruel joke of it all. People aren't trapped because they're weak. They're trapped because they're distracted. They're chasing validation, comfort, approval, all while the clock ticks and their spirit grows quieter. You want to know the real trap. It's believing that one day, when things are perfect, you'll finally start living. That's the lie that ruins lives, because that perfect day never comes. The conditions never align. The permission never arrives. You just keep waiting, thinking the timing isn't right, when in truth, you were supposed to move long ago. And then, the silence sets in. The one that feels too familiar. The one where you stop questioning and just accept. The one where you laugh at your own pain because pretending feels easier than changing. That's how the trap wins. Not with force, but with exhaustion. It waits for you to stop caring, to stop believing that things could be different. Because once you stop believing, you stop trying. And once you stop trying, they don't have to trap you anymore. You'll stay right where you are, guarding your own prison, calling it peace. You ever notice how people love the sound of truth until it starts to hurt? They crave honesty, demand transparency, swear they just want the facts. But the moment the truth shows up, bloody, uncomfortable, shaking the walls they've built, they shut their ears and smile like everything's fine. That's the thing about lies. They don't just hide reality, they protect comfort. And people will defend comfort more fiercely than they'll ever defend truth. People believe lies because the truth threatens their comfort. It's not because they're stupid. No, it's because they're scared. The truth isn't pretty. It isn't gentle. It doesn't whisper sweet nothings in your ear while stroking your ego. No. It rips the blanket off your face and forces you to stare at the cracks in your world, the flaws in your beliefs, the rot in your reality. People don't want that. They want soft pillows made of illusions, a warm bed of lies where they can close their eyes and pretend everything makes sense. You show them the truth, and they'll call you crazy, dangerous, delusional. Because believing the lie feels safer than waking up in the dark. Comfort is the drug, and lies are the dealer. You see it everywhere. People smiling, nodding, agreeing to stories that make no sense, defending things that destroy them, loving people who manipulate them. Why? Because the alternative hurts too much. The alternative means admitting they've been fooled, that their whole foundation is built on deceit. And that's the one pain people can't handle. The pain of realizing they were complicit in their own delusion. They'd rather die protecting the lie than live facing the truth. Watch how they react when the mask starts slipping. Panic, anger, denial. It's all part of the show. They'll mock you if you point it out. They'll laugh in your face. But their laughter is hollow, it trembles. Deep down, they know. They know something isn't right, but they cling to the illusion like a child clutching a broken toy. They convince themselves that if they just believe hard enough, the toy will fix itself. That's how far people go to protect their comfort. They sacrifice reason, self, respect, even their soul, just to avoid the discomfort of seeing clearly. It's not the lie that traps them. It's the comfort it provides. Lies are warm, soft, familiar. They wrap around your fear like a blanket. They whisper promises that things will stay the same. But truth is cold. It's sharp. It cuts. It leaves you naked, trembling, exposed. And yet, that's where freedom hides. Not in the warmth of illusion, but in the chill of reality. But most people don't want freedom, they want sedation. They don't want to see, they want to feel safe. And safety, in this world, is often a well-packaged lie sold to you as happiness. You want to know why lies spread faster than truth. Because lies flatter. Lies tell people they're good, right? Righteous. Truth tells them they're not. Lies offer comfort, while truth demands change. Lies can be molded, reshaped, made beautiful. Truth stays ugly, unbending. The lie tells you you're winning. The truth tells you you're asleep. And between the two, which do you think people choose? They'll take the lie every time, smile while doing it, and call it wisdom. The real joke is this. You think you're choosing your beliefs, but your beliefs were chosen for you. The system feeds you stories. The world teaches you to obey. And every lie you swallow becomes another thread in your cage. You think you're safe because everyone else believes the same thing. But that's the trap. Majority doesn't mean truth. It just means most people are comfortably blind. They build walls of illusion and call them homes. They decorate them with denial and call it peace. And when someone knocks, when someone dares to question the foundation, they don't listen, they attack. They defend their cage as if it's paradise. People don't protect lies because they love deceit. They protect lies because they fear collapse. If one lie falls, everything else starts shaking. Their beliefs, their pride, their identity, all connected by threads of falsehood. Pull one, and the whole web unravels. So they guard it. They fight for it. They call the truth the enemy, because in a way, it is. The enemy of their comfort, their illusion, their fragile little world. It's easier to live blind than to see the cracks. Easier to believe the doctor, the preacher, the politician, the influencer. Because if they're lying, then what's left? You'd have to face yourself. You'd have to admit you've been living someone else's script. That every dream you chased, every opinion you held, every fact you believed might have been designed to keep you calm, controlled, compliant, and that thought terrifies them more than any lie ever could. People don't love truth. They love stability. They love knowing the sun will rise, the bills will be paid, and the story they've been told still makes sense. But the truth doesn't care about sense. It doesn't care about your comfort. It exists whether you believe it or not. It's there, waiting, watching, whispering beneath the noise of your distractions. And you can ignore it for a while. You can drown it out with entertainment, money, validation. But one day it knocks louder. One day the illusion cracks and the light pours in. That's when you see who's been lying, not them. You. They tell you to trust the system. Trust the experts. Trust the voices that echo through your screens, dressed in authority and certainty. They wear smiles and suits and tell you everything's under control. But deep down, you feel it, don't you? That crawling unease beneath your skin, that whisper that says something's not right. You've been told to ignore it, to obey, to sit still and consume. But what if that whisper is the only honest thing left in this world? What if the ones who claim to protect you are the same ones feeding you the poison? You've been conditioned to believe that lies are truth, and truth is madness. The news says it, the trends repeat it, and the crowd applauds it. So you believe it, not because it makes sense, but because it's easier than standing alone. The herd comforts you. It tells you you're safe as long as you follow the path, as long as you don't question the voice on the loudspeaker. But that's how they keep you tame. They make you fear doubt. They make you associate truth with danger, rebellion, chaos. They turn reality upside down and call it order. And you, desperate for belonging, swallow it whole. It's a funny thing how obedience feels like virtue when you've been lied to your whole life. They teach you to obey before you can even speak. Stand straight, smile, agree, don't question. And by the time you're old enough to notice the cracks, it's too late. You've been programmed to defend the very thing that enslaves you. You'll fight for your cage, decorate it, call it freedom. You'll attack anyone who rattles the bars. That's the brilliance of the lie. It doesn't need guards when the prisoners police themselves. They've learned that the best way to hide the truth is to bury it under noise. Distractions, trends, endless scrolling, a constant flood of meaningless information. You think you're informed, but you're just overwhelmed. Your attention is currency, and they're buying your silence with entertainment. Every scroll, every click, every like is a tiny surrender. You trade your awareness for stimulation, your perception for comfort. You think you're choosing what to watch, but the choice was made for you long before you touched the screen. You ever wonder why fear is the one thing they never stop feeding you? Every story, every headline, every new crisis, carefully crafted to keep you anxious obedient, begging for direction. Fear makes you pliable. It keeps your eyes fixed where they want them. It stops you from asking the wrong questions. Because once you start asking, the entire illusion starts to crack. They can't afford that. So they give you just enough hope to keep you compliant and just enough fear to keep you from rebelling. The truth doesn't disappear. It's hidden in plain sight. You see it in the patterns, the repetition, the contradictions they hope you'll ignore. They rely on your fatigue. They know you're tired, busy, distracted. So they keep the lies simple and the truth complicated. They make sure the truth sounds crazy, so you dismiss it. They label it conspiracy, nonsense, dangerous, and you nod along, because agreeing feels safer than standing out. But deep down, that little voice inside, the one they told you to silence, it's still whispering, still asking why, still seeing what they don't want you to see. The world runs on illusions stacked on illusions. You're told success equals obedience, happiness equals consumption, safety equals silence. They teach you to chase symbols instead of substance, to trust appearances instead of instincts. And when you finally catch what you've been chasing, you realize it's empty. But you keep pretending, because everyone else is pretending too. That's how they keep you in line, with comparison, envy, validation. You don't need chains when people willingly imprison themselves in approval. It's not evil in the way you think. It's efficient. The system doesn't need to force you to comply. It just teaches you to enjoy it. You laugh at your own control, joke about your exhaustion, call your anxiety normal. You live inside the illusion and defend it because facing reality feels unbearable. But the truth doesn't vanish just because you refuse to look at it. It lingers, waiting for the moment you finally open your eyes. Every lie has an expiration date, and when it comes, when the facade starts to crumble, people will panic. They'll look for someone to blame, someone to hate, someone to follow. They won't realize that the ones they trusted were the ones pulling the strings all along. They'll scream about betrayal. But the truth is, they betrayed themselves first. They believed because it was convenient. They ignored because it was comfortable. They trusted because thinking for themselves was too heavy. And when the curtain finally falls, you'll see it wasn't a play at all. It was a test. A test to see who would question the actors and who would keep clapping. Most people will still be clapping, smiling, waiting for the next scene. Because believing the lie has become their identity. Without it, they're lost. Without it, they have to rebuild everything from the ground up. And that's what they fear most. Not the lie, not the truth, but the silence in between, where they finally have to think for themselves. They told you to trust appearances, didn't they? They said the eyes don't lie, that what you see is what you get. But eyes can deceive. Faces can hide storms, and smiles can be masks. The most dangerous people aren't the ones who shout. They're the ones who smile when everything burns. You've met them, the ones who say, "I care," while their mind sharpens knives behind their back. The ones who swear loyalty with their lips, but measure your worth in silence. You keep trying to see the good in people, hoping it'll make the world softer, but the truth is, it just makes you a target. Because when they realize you see light, they'll test how much darkness you can take before you break. You ever wonder why the kind ones get hurt first? Because wolves know exactly who to hunt. They can smell empathy like blood in the water. They know the ones who forgive quickly, trust deeply, and hope endlessly. And they'll feed off that again and again, until you either learn the game or lose yourself in it. They'll call you paranoid when you start to notice. They'll call you cold when you stop playing nice. But that's how the trap works. It punishes awareness and rewards blindness. The moment you open your eyes, they label you the problem. People don't love truth, they love comfort. They'll defend a liar if his lie soothes them more than your honesty hurts them. You'll try to show them. You'll try to explain, but they'll call you crazy. Because the truth threatens the little world they've built to protect themselves from it. That's why you can't wake everyone. Not everyone wants to wake up. Some people are addicted to the dream, to the illusion, to the comfort of being told what's right and wrong. They don't want freedom. They want direction. And the moment you realize that, you stop trying to save them. They say, be honest. But they don't mean it. They mean, be honest when it benefits me. The second your honesty exposes their weakness, you become the enemy. You'll watch them twist your words, flip your intentions, rewrite your story just to keep themselves clean. And the best part, they'll convince others you're the villain. You'll watch people you trusted turn their backs, not because they hate you, but because it's easier than questioning what they've been told. It's not betrayal that hurts most. It's how casual it looks when it happens. How easily people walk away from you after pretending they'd never do it. But here's the beauty of being broken by lies. You start seeing clearly. Pain scrubs the lens clean. You start recognizing patterns, tones, micro-expressions. You start hearing what's not being said. You stop believing words and start reading energy. And once that happens, you can never go back. You can't unsee manipulation once you've seen it. You can't unfeel deceit once it's brushed against your soul. You stop playing the game. You become unpredictable, dangerous. Because truth is dangerous to a world built on lies. And then comes silence. The phase where you stop explaining yourself. You stop fighting for understanding. You stop chasing closure. You simply observe. You learn that not reacting is the loudest response. You learn that walking away isn't weakness. It's strategy. That's when people start fearing you. Not because you're cruel, but because they can't control you anymore. They can't trigger what no longer exists. You've outgrown the manipulation, and that terrifies them. You'll notice something strange after that. The same people who tried to break you will start calling you different. They'll say you've changed, that you're distant, that you're cold. What they really mean is you stopped giving them access to destroy you. They don't miss you. They miss the version of you that tolerated their chaos. You stop being their supply, and they panic. They'll try to pull you back with guilt, nostalgia, or fake apologies. But once you've seen the truth, even their voice sounds hollow. And then there's freedom. Not the kind they sell you, the kind you earn in silence, in solitude, in self-awareness, the kind that comes when you realize you don't need validation, explanations, or permission. You start moving different. You start speaking less. You start existing with purpose instead of approval. And the world, unable to understand that, will label you arrogant, mysterious, unapproachable. Let them, because for the first time, their opinions don't chain you. They amuse you. You've finally seen behind the curtain. But there's still a price. Once you see too much, you stop belonging anywhere. You're not part of their world anymore, not completely. You walk through crowds, knowing how many smiles are fake, how many words are rehearsed. You start recognizing fear in people's laughter, insecurity in their confidence, envy in their praise. You begin to realize that most people aren't alive. They're performing. Pretending to be fine, pretending to be strong, pretending to be real. You'll see it everywhere, and it'll both sadden and empower you. Because now you know what's real, and that knowledge can't be unseen. The truth isn't pretty. It's raw, uncomfortable, inconvenient. It'll cost you people peace and illusion, but it'll give you power. Power that doesn't need approval. Power that doesn't beg to be understood. And that's when the game changes. Because the moment you stop being fooled by appearances, you stop being controlled by them. You become what they fear most, someone they can't deceive anymore. You think loyalty means something, don't you? You think when people say they're with you, they mean forever. That when they say, "I've got your back," they'll actually be there when it's dark, when it's ugly, when it's inconvenient. But that's not how it works. You learn, painfully, that loyalty is often conditional. It's loyalty until you stop entertaining them. It's loyalty until your silence stops feeding their ego. It's loyalty until your success starts to outshine their comfort. Then, suddenly, you become different. They start saying, "You've changed." But the truth is, you didn't change. They just never expected you to grow beyond what they could control. People don't abandon you when you're lost. They abandon you when you start finding yourself. They don't leave when you're weak. They leave when you start getting strong. Because strength threatens those who still need weakness to feel powerful. They liked you better when you were small, predictable, manageable. When your light flickered just enough to warm them, but not enough to expose them. But once your fire starts to burn brighter, once you start seeing through their manipulation, that's when they start pulling away. Because now, you don't need them to survive, and that terrifies them. You'll see it in their eyes, the subtle resentment when you start choosing peace over approval. The little shift in tone when you stop explaining yourself. You'll feel it in the distance, in the quiet, in how they start forgetting to check on you. That's not forgetfulness. That's fear. Fear of what you're becoming without their influence. Fear of losing the power they had when you doubted yourself. Because as long as you were questioning your worth, they could define it. But the second you stopped, they lost control of the narrative. And control, that's what they really cared about. They say family never leaves, but even family can envy your strength. Sometimes the bloodline carries poison, not the kind that kills the body, but the kind that suffocates your soul slowly with guilt and expectations. You owe us, they'll say. Don't forget where you came from. But what they mean is, don't grow beyond what we're comfortable seeing. They want you close enough to use, but not far enough to inspire. Because if you break the cycle, you expose the lie they've been living under. And no one likes being the one left behind by evolution. You'll realize one day that some people don't want help. They want pity. They want you to sit in the mud with them, not to pull them out, but to make their misery feel less lonely. They'll tell you you're selfish for chasing your purpose, that you've changed for focusing on yourself. But what they really mean is, you're no longer available for my chaos. You'll start understanding that love isn't always about staying. It's sometimes about walking away before you both drown. It's strange, isn't it? How people can love your potential but hate your progress. They'll cheer when you dream. But the moment that dream starts becoming real, they'll get quiet. Not because they don't care, but because your growth exposes their stagnation. Your courage reminds them of their fear. Your effort reminds them of their excuses. And instead of being inspired, they feel attacked. You didn't do anything wrong. You just became the mirror they didn't want to look into. The hardest part isn't losing them. It's realizing they were never truly with you. They were with the version of you that made them comfortable. The version that apologized for existing too loudly. The version that waited for permission to feel enough. When you stop being that version, they'll fade. And you'll be tempted to chase them, to prove you're still the same person. But you're not. You've outgrown the cage they built for you. And no amount of nostalgia should make you shrink back to fit inside it. And then you'll meet the silence. The phase where everything goes quiet, where the crowd disappears, where your phone stops ringing. It feels lonely at first, like something's missing. But that silence is your rebirth. It's the space where fake attachments die and real strength grows. That's where you hear your own voice again, without the noise of opinions or manipulation. That's where you realize the power of standing alone. You'll understand that isolation isn't punishment. It's protection. The universe removes distractions before it delivers purpose. And when that clarity comes, you stop chasing loyalty. You start observing it. You stop begging people to stay. You watch who chooses to. You start seeing that loyalty isn't proven in words, but in consistency. In who shows up when there's nothing to gain. In who defends you when you're not around. In who claps when no one else is watching. That's loyalty. It's quiet, rare. and real. Everything else is convenience disguised as care. It's almost poetic how people reveal themselves when you stop serving their comfort. They don't change. You just finally see who they always were. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. You stop expecting truth from liars, loyalty from opportunists, or depth from the shallow. You stop bleeding for people who never once bandaged your wounds. And